Welcome back. We are going to explore further core techniques by drawing a shaped bar chart. In this video, we are going to build our first, albeit simple, bespoke data visualization to get a better understanding of data densification and table calculations. Just as a reminder, data densification is where we take records of relatively few and expand upon it, so we create a more dense data set. Table calculations allow us to run calculations across, up or down, or based on configurations, calculations based on what is a viewable table. We will be building a shaped bar chart, which is a nice alternative to your standard bar chart. So I say we jump in and get started. So first things first, let's look at our data set. In your spreadsheet application or in Notepad, if you want to create comma separated values, that's fine. Let's create the following. We have 3 columns. We have country, which we're going to put as United States. This is just dummy data. And percentage, which is 0.3, representing 30%. And we also have a path, which is 0 to 99. So let's create this. And we are going to copy this into Tableau. So select, copy, click on Tableau desktop and paste. Tableau will then load your information in and then we could get started. Yep, as always, Tableau will try to put some of your measures, dimensions onto the screen just to try to help you out, but we don't want any of that. So let's clear this out. We are going to start how we normally do, which is with our data densification. Let's right click on path, go to create, select bin, and in our case I want to use the bin size of 10. So we're going to have 10 buckets in essence, each of them representing 10%. With that done, we are now going to create an index function. Nice and simple. Click OK. Now what I want us to do is take country, bring that onto rows. So every row represents a country. We only have one, which is fine. In your data set, you can revisit this video and explore other countries, see what it looks like. Trust me, loads of fun. Grab index, drag and drop that into columns. As you can see, we only have, it seems to be one object, which is fine. Let's change the mark type to squares. Do not panic, we only have one square. What I want us to do now, however, is take bin path, bring it onto rows, right click, make sure that show missing values is selected. It's kind of annoying that you can't do this when it's on detail, but that's fine. We know that it is selected, so now drag that onto detail. Now I want us to right click on index, go to compute using, select path bin, boom, here we go. So now we actually have 10 blocks. So again, from 2 records of data, we have 10 blocks, and you can see the index value changes. So what I want us to do now is let's increase the size of this slightly so we could see a bit more. I want us to take the percentage value and I want to drop it into the label. So hopefully we can see what the percentage value is. We've dropped it in. Let's center a line. And actually let's turn it and right click, change the formatting into a percentage. That should be relatively simple. As you can see, we have a little problem here. The problem is that the 30% is only showing up for 2 of the rows. Remember, the first and the last is not showing up in between. So therefore, this is where our Windows calculation comes in. We want to replicate this value and make sure that it's viewable everywhere, not just into the individual bins of which it resides. So I want to right click on percentage, go to create, calculated field, and let's call this TC percentage. And what I'm going to do now is use a win max and wrap that around the percentage. What would this do? It means that throughout the whole table, every individual point can actually see the Windows max value. So let's click OK. And I'm going to replace the sum of percentage now. Still no dice, that's okay. Go to compute, using. Now select path bin. And as you can see, the 30% is now visible across all the items. This is the key behind data densification using table calculations and index. Now we want to color the bars slightly differently based on if the percentage value is above the block value itself. So as we have 10 blocks, the first block is 10%, 20, 30 and so forth. So let's create that percentage calculation. Let's go create calculated field. I'm going to create a table calculation. I'm going to create block value. Now this is going to comprise of index divided by window max index. So we're taking the biggest index value available. We're dividing index by that to give us a percentage. Let's click apply. Okay. Let's drag that into text and see if we can see what the value looks like. So label, as you can see, is equal to 1. Fret not. Right click on block. Go to compute using and select path bin. And now I'm guessing I'm hoping that you can actually see where we're going with this. We have the value 0.3s, which is the value of the United States, going all the way through our visualization. Our block value is now 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, all the way to 1.0, which is 100%. So all we have to do now is create a if else condition to actually format the color. So create calculated field, TC color. All we're going to say now is if, TC block value is less than or equal to TC percentage, then we're going to put a color, else we're going to put gray. Make sense? The color can represent any color, we could assign anything to it, but we want a gray there. Let's click OK and let's put this to the test. Let's drag TC color onto color itself and voila. You can see what we've done. Now we are going to, for the first time in this course, apply some cosmetics. So let's just do that now and really get this thing working. So don't really need to see the country labels, quite self-explanatory. Do not need to see the indexes. I am now going to adjust the color. So let's keep that as blue. Why not? Let's change the gray. Let's change that to a lighter shade of gray. If you're wondering, I'm using Google Material Design color palette. It just gives me a lot of variety. You could download it on Tableau Magic. Let's click apply. The gray is not quite working. Let's lighten that just a bit. Here we go. So now I don't really want to see the block value because it's not adding too much value to me. So let's get rid of that. Drag that off. The percentage as well, I don't want to see it on every block. So I'm going to drag that onto the tooltip. I'm also going to format that. As you can see, it says 0.3, not the nicest thing. Right click, format. Let's change that to a percentage. 1 decimal would be nice. I have a habit of changing both axis and the pane. So now you can see it says 30%. Let's clean up the tooltip. So we have the tooltip here. I don't really need to see the color indicator. TC percentage, that is what we want to keep, but let's just call that percentage. Beautiful. Don't really need to see the index or the path, but we do need the country, so that's what we're going to keep. Now let's click OK. As you can see, it's looking pretty good. It's a different type of chart. All we need to do now is click on the background or the visualization format. Let's do some basic housekeeping stuff. So let's remove 0 lines. Let's remove trends, or other habit. I like to remove all the different lines. I wish there was a way of clearing this to make it all none. That would actually make my life so much better. Let's remove the grid lines here as well. Increase the font of the United States. Let's send that to 12. As you can see, we now have a bespoke visualization, which is a shape bar chart. Now, why is it called a shape bar chart? We have squares. We could turn that into circles. Very, very easy. If we change it to shapes, we could change it to stars or diamonds. We could really have fun with this, but let's go back to squares for a moment. If we go back to our bin value, our path bin, let's edit that. Let's change the size to 20. This is something that we was discussing before. Because we are using a cool date visualization, we've now lost data. So we could only tell you that the United States fits within the first bucket, which is quite misleading. So let's go back and edit our bin again. Let's make it size 5. Ooh, this has given us an interesting bar chart. Totally prepared for. Let's reduce the size. Here we go. Now, as a disclaimer, what I would actually do as well is you could take TC percentage, you could drag that onto rows next to country, and you could turn it into a discrete. And as you can see, what you've done is you've put the actual text value there, which we can now format. Let's turn that to a percentage. And I would encourage this with all the bespoke visualizations that you do, or that you build, or that you work on. Make sure that the information is always there. You might have a cool tail end, but now you have the United States, critical information. You now have the percentage, again, critical information. And now you have the visualization, which might add a cool effect. But the key is that you've not lost any information here, and that is the major key. So, just to recap, we use the index to actually draw individual points or individual shapes. We've used a table calculation to actually figure out what each of these boxes represent in terms of their value. How do we do that? We took a calculation, or created a calculation, where we took the index, whatever index value was here, divided by the maximum index value to give us a percentage that represented each individual block. All we then did was compare the percentage value, which we had to wrap around with a table calculation, to the block value and color accordingly. After that, we adjusted cosmetics. We explored different possibilities in terms of shapes. So as you can see, we could have loads of fun with this. And finally, we ensure that we did not corrupt the visualization by adding the actual value. I'm a big advocate of making sure that we add the actual value. And then we can really explore shapes, explore sizes, and you could come up with something that looks pretty interesting, pretty unique. And yes, hopefully this is your first bespoke data visualization. So what did we do in this video? We started building and drawing our first bespoke visualization. In essence, drawing a shape bar chart using data densification, table calculations. We built something that hopefully you enjoyed and you're ready for more. So until then, see you at the next video.